special guest to talk about desirable zip codes, hottest real estate markets in America. I hope Jersey made the list. I hope a couple of our towns did. We have the chief economist with Realtor.com, Johnathan Smoke, who is with us here today. Johnathan, good morning. It's Bert at WCTC. How are you?
I'm great, Bert. How are you?
Doing well. Please tell me that my beloved state of New Jersey has got a couple of zip codes on this hot list. Did we at least make the final list here?
You did register the list. The zip code in Clark, New Jersey, in Union County, 07066, was number 49. And that's out of 33,000 zip codes in the country, so that's pretty good territory.
That's pretty good. I guess a place like Clark has similarities with some of these other top cities, Fort Worth and Littleton, Colorado. Desirable for millennials, and these are your future tax base and your future residents, right?
Absolutely. They are the largest generation in history. 44 million are simply between the ages of 25 to 34, and that's exactly who we see buying now in this market.
Yeah, these are the people that are going to be making the decisions for all of us someday, Johnathan, so I want to make sure that they're nice and happy and comfortable where they live. Give me the profile, if there is such a thing as a profile, of a typical millennium and what they're looking for when it comes to permanent housing.
Well, because there's so many of them, I try to avoid lumping them all in one category. We see them trying to balance. Historically, they've had more of an affinity for urban locations. And, of course, you've heard all the stereotypes that they don't want to own a house, they don't want to own a car, so they're very into renting and ride sharing. But we're starting to see those values change as they get married and as they have children. So they're starting to focus on schools. We're seeing them have a preference for single-family housing if they can afford it. Because they're ranking high on their list of things they're looking for, things like having a yard. But they also want to balance being relatively close to where they work, where their family and friends are, where there are services like retail and restaurants and things they can enjoy. So it's an interesting thing to see them try to balance because, the housing market is back. Home values are close to being recovered in the New Jersey area. And so as a result, what they can afford and what their down payment look like tend to be the biggest obstacles they have.
Here in Jersey, Johnathan, there's a big approach and a big push towards access to mass transit. We're developing a lot of towns and creating these little transit villages around our New Jersey transit train system. Is that something that's desirable around the country as well?
It is, absolutely. In fact, that's a common theme that it's hard to quantify, but seems to be when I'm going through these stories and talking to folks around the country for these hottest areas, there's almost always some sort of transportation theme about the places that are really on fire right now.
Our guest this morning here on Jersey Central is Johnathan Smoke. He's the chief economist with Realtor.com, and we're talking about the hottest real estate markets in America. As far as that top, near the top of the list there, Johnathan, in terms across the country, any of these cities come out as surprises to you, as like, oh, wow, people are really moving there? That's kind of surprising. Anything kind of jump out at you like that?
Well, I follow it all the time, so it's tough to surprise me. At the top of the list, we've got a suburb of Dallas, which has been very hot, Fort Worth. And then we also have California well represented and Colorado well represented. That's not a surprise. I would say it's probably places in the Midwest that are starting to register that are a surprise to many folks. High on our list, I think at number 8 this year is in St. Louis, the suburb of St. Louis, Missouri, and that's certainly not a place that many people think of as a fast-growing place, but is a place with a large number of millennials and very, very strong affordability, and so they can get into the market and have a good quality of life.
One last question before we wrap up, Johnathan. Different preferences perhaps between men and women when it comes to the places and where they want to live and the amenities?
Well, typically we see they compromise on those decisions, and so what I see reflected is maybe there are stated differences in preferences, like you get when you watch House Hunters on TV, but in reality, they're very practically focused on the things that are really going to matter the most to them, and for millennials, that goes back to schools, access to transportation, and bottom line affordability.
Yeah, they compromise. The girl says what she wants, and the guy says, okay, dear, whatever you say. That's the compromise, right?
That's exactly right.
Anywhere we can go online to see the entire list, Johnathan?
Absolutely, Realtor.com, and you can get individual data on all of the zip codes in New Jersey if you're interested in just how hot they are.
All right, Clark, New Jersey. For any of our real estate folks who are listening this morning, take a look at those listings in Clark. Johnathan, thank you for your time. Great to talk to you this morning on WCTC. All right.
Thanks for having me, Bert.
All right, thank you. All right, my guest, Johnathan Smoke on the Realtor.com chief economist. He was my guest here this morning on WCTC.